What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Swanky Disc Golf Show. I'm your host, Luke. I'm joined today by co-hosts Josiah and Nick. Reed has the flu. R.I.P. Reed. Prayers for Reed. If you guys are listening online, you will notice that there's nothing to notice. There's nothing different. If you guys are watching on YouTube, you're watching on YouTube. This is our first week of doing some video. We want to be posting this podcast. For those of you who don't know, when the Pro Tour season starts up, this is a weekly podcast, and we want to make sure we're getting it out to our YouTube viewers. So first off, huge shout out to our audio-only listeners. Appreciate you guys so much. And now if you want to watch my beautiful face, you can watch it on YouTube. So this week, we are talking everything off-season. We're going to update you guys. If you missed anything, this is the show for you. And we're going to start off Player of the Year. It's time to put Player of the Year to bed. We talked about it a ton towards the end of the year, and we're really just going to say whether or not we're okay with the decision. Calvin Heimburg is your Player of the Year. That was announced a little bit before the new year. And so there was a lot of different takes on who should be, who shouldn't be. There are really only two valid takes, but that's what we're going to jump into first. Josiah, are you okay with the fact that Calvin Heimburg is your 2023 Player of the Year?
I mean, yeah, I can come to terms with it. As much as I am a biased fan of Isaac Robinson, and I really wanted it for him, I do think that Calvin deserved it, and he was consistently the best player. I mean, even if you look back at our pick'ems from the whole year, every week, you're having a better shot of picking Calvin first than you did Isaac. And it was always that debate of like, do I pick Isaac because he could win, or do I pick Calvin because I know he's going to come in third place?
That's so true.
And that was kind of the like, it's like, which one do I want to pick first when you pick the MPO winner? And so, or risk letting somebody else pick the other one. So I to that regards, like, I understand that Calvin won. I think he was deserving of it. I know there are arguments both ways, but it was clearly Calvin or Isaac. And so, I mean, I don't think anybody's going to remember that in a few years, and I think everybody's going to remember Isaac winning 2 majors. But in that regards, I do think he deserved it. I just wish there was a way to make the Player of the Year award a little bit more memorable. I don't know how they would do that, but Worlds and Majors just seem way more memorable than being consistently good the whole year. So, yeah, I don't know how else they could do that, but yeah, Calvin deserves it. So not mad, but I do wish that Isaac won it.
Does
what do you
he
think,
deserve it if Isaac won too? No, I get it. Like you said, come to terms with it. I think that's just what we have to do. Calvin was more consistent, but yes, I mean, 2 major championships is hard to overlook for Isaac, and I'm kind of a homer for Isaac. I'm an Isaac fan, so I'm sad to not see him win it, but I guess I'm okay. I'm okay with Calvin getting it. So that's my short take. Also, I'm sorry that Reed's sick. I'm here. What's up, guys?
Sorry, Reed. Big L for Reed this week. He probably got sick from me because I was super sick, got better. We filmed a video, and then he got super sick. So, not my fault, but it could be my fault. The only argument that I've heard being brought up lately is if these seasons flipped, is Calvin Heimburg still winning? If Calvin Heimburg won 2 majors last year and Isaac Robinson had the same exact stats that Calvin Heimburg actually did, is Isaac going to win? And this is speculation, of course. We don't know, but I don't think so. I think it might be a hot take to say that, but I think that if Calvin would have won 2 majors, would have had Isaac's season last season, and Isaac would have had Calvin's, I think they would have given it to Calvin because it's his first major, then he would get a second major. Speculation. I could be really wrong. Let us know in the comments who you think. If you're watching on YouTube, let us know in the comments who you think is actually the world champion or the Player of the Year. Calvin 100% deserved this. He earned the absolute heck out of it. He played out of his mind every single week.
Oh, yeah.
But the wins, the Worlds, the Champions Cup, man, oh my goodness. Crazy season, and especially in MPO, you're just not going to see many 2 major seasons ever anymore anyways. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a hard pill to swallow, but I'm going to swallow it. Huge congratulations to Calvin. Well deserved. Best player on the planet probably right now, if we're being honest. And if that's what player of the year is, who is the best disc golfer?
It's true.
It really was Calvin, week in and week out. But Isaac eked out those crazy wins. I don't know.
That's what Josiah said.
We're putting it to bed. It's over.
It's going to be memorable.
Yeah. It's what Josiah said. It's going to be memorable. 2024. Who's going to be the player of the year 2024? Kristen Tatar. And who else?
We talked about that last podcast.
Yes, we did.
For our way too early pick'ems.
Yeah, way too early pick'ems last
That sounds
podcast
fun.
was a ton of fun. You guys can go check that out. Thank you, Nick. For our second thing, Pro Tour changes. We have a video out there that talks about a lot of the Pro Tour changes, but things have changed, guys. It's crazy. No more Silver Series, first of all. Second of all, the West Coast swing has swung. It's gone. There's no West Coast swing. There's truly West Coast events. There's 3. Out of all of the events, there's 3 true like West Coasters, which is crazy. And third, there's a ton of new European events that are not new, but they're on the Pro Tour for the first time. There's a huge influx of European events. What are your thoughts on these big changes, Josiah? No Silver Series, no West Coast. Why is that? And how do you feel about the influx of European tournaments?
So I'm happy to not see Silver Series anymore. I think it just made things confusing. It made those events feel kind of devalued, at least in most people's opinion.
Yeah.
The field was always weaker. A lot of people skipped it. And I like the idea of just making it, hey, there's one event. I do think it would be kind of cool if they did like a Silver Series events, because it's going like disc golf is getting more popular. They're introducing the whole tour card thing, and it's going to get to a point where people aren't going to get tour cards that are very talented. So I think it would be cool if there was like a separate Silver Series of events that is kind of more geared towards people who don't have tour cards. I think that would be cool. So those who are still like more than qualified to play above their local level, but didn't get into the tour. As far as the West Coast swing, I mean, they're always the lowest strength of field, so I'm not surprised that we're seeing fewer events. I think that's the reason that they introduced Elite Plus events in the first place, was kind of to make Portland an Elite Plus event so that people would try and go over there for a few weeks. But the distance in the West in between cities is insane, let alone just states in general. So I think the idea of people traveling, especially because most people travel out of their cars, is just so far in between events. Like the other day I was talking to someone, and I live near Denver, and we realized that it's actually closer from Dallas, Texas to Atlanta, Georgia than it is from Dallas to Denver. And that just to me crazy. Like kind of blew my mind that where I came from to Dallas is closer than where I am now, even though I live 2 states over.
It's wild.
And it's just like that, but that's just how big the West is once you get west, and you're not driving 30 minutes to a disc golf town and then 30 minutes to a disc golf town.
Yeah,
you're driving like 3 hours sometimes just to get in between courses, and you're driving 8 to 10 hours minimum just to get to different Pro Tour events. And so I just think that all those people that are living out of their cars and traveling, and they're trying to make a living doing something they love, it just becomes a little bit more difficult. And as far as the Pro Tour events, I really think that they should just be a separate tour. I am not opposed to trying to convince people to go over to Europe and do more events and things like that, and maybe like do a collab, maybe each way. There's one tour in Europe that's goes towards the Pro Tour standings, but there's also like some events in the US that go towards a European Pro Tour. But I think it's just kind of obnoxious, especially when they kind of overlap, when you're having to choose whether to stay
there is some jumping around here.
Yeah, there's super important, like notable events in the US that if you're going to Europe, you're going to skip those, but you're still getting points for it. So who cares type of deal, because you're going to get points either way. And so I think it's just going to weaken the field at both places. And so it's going to make it less competitive in that regard. So I've always liked the idea of saying, hey, let's just take a break in the Pro Tour in the US for a month and have 4 big events in Europe so everybody gets some time to travel and play competitively. There are going to be people that can't afford it, but I don't really like the idea of having so many Pro Tour events in Europe that you can get points
Yeah.
for. Not that I don't want people going to Europe. I love the idea of people traveling internationally. I just think it's taking away when you're making it overlap to a point. It's just going to weaken the field.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It seems like I'm sure what they're trying to do is involve more of the European audience in the Pro Tour.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe even give them opportunities for people who can't make it for the full U.S. Tour to make it to the Pro Tour Championship or stuff like that. But it is weird. At first, I was thinking, like, there's so many points up for grabs in Europe. If you're a player who can't afford to get out there, if you're not sponsored by one of these major companies, but you are a player who's like in contention for the Pro Tour Championship, you're going to have a hard time keeping up with points because there's so many events.
But at the same time, you can get
they
placed
are
higher in the U.S.
If you look at this, Dynamic Disc Open is May 3rd through 5th. The next weekend, Copenhagen Open is the next weekend, and then the following weekend is OTB.
Yeah,
so
all
it's
the West
like
Coast.
Either absolutely nobody from the U.S. is going to go to Copenhagen.
Yep.
Or like Copenhagen is going to pull away some people from OTB, and there's not going to be many people at OTB.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, same with Turku Open is the weekend before the Preserve, and the weekend after the Preserve is the Swedish Open. So it's really cool. Maybe it won't affect it as much as I think, but I know nobody's bouncing back and forth between Europe and the U.S. every weekend.
I did not realize how much this bounces back and forth.
Oh, yeah, no, it goes Turku
This
Open,
is
Preserve,
insane.
Swedish Open, Des Moines, Krokol Open, European Disc Golf Festival. There's 2 back-to-back. And then Ledgestone, Idlewild. Yeah.
It's
going to be tricky.
Yeah, people who play the European Open are barely going to make it back in time for Ledgestone. That's crazy. I didn't even think about that. That's so wild.
Yeah.
So,
man.
Yeah, I'm even less of a fan now.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm all for it. Like, the
Yeah.
European courses are gorgeous. I love seeing them on the Pro Tour, but we have to plan it better.
Yeah. If they had put all 4 European events that they have listed here back to back to back, I'd be all for it. If it was like hey, you travel for a week, you get a whole month there, and then you travel back, that's great. That's what the European players are doing to come over here. You know, they're coming here for 3 months, going home for a month, coming back here for 3 months, and then going home.
True.
I'm like, I think it's the least that we can do to go over there for a month to a month and a half if we can afford it. You know, I know a lot of people
interesting
can't,
to see how it plays out.
Yeah. So,
what are your thoughts, Nick? What do you think?
Yeah, well, you guys just pretty much covered everything. But I'll jump in with the casual disc golf fan perspective. I would say I'm not super mad about the Silver Series. I tend to like to watch the ones that are a little bit bigger anyways. And like when I look at the Silver Series events and I see only 1 or 2 names that are like super notable, I'm like, I might not invest my whole weekend in watching this. I'll follow it, but I might not watch it. So I'm not super mad about that. And then as far as the West Coast, not surprised. I do like the Portland Open. I think it is. I think it's a really cool course. And yeah, like Josiah said as well, you guys covered everything. We were just talking about it being an Elite Plus and trying to get people to go out west. And then the whole Europe thing, that was brand new news to me, hearing that it's going to go 1 week there and then 1 week back here. That literally makes no sense. And like you guys are saying, I don't understand how that's going to be affordable for every single player to be able to do that, because in reality it's not going to probably happen. So I don't know. I'm interested to see how that plays out this year and how many players are going to be able to do that, or just decide to stay, in America or Europe, and then how that's going to affect, the points and everything, and how everything's going to play out. So that's all I got.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It might also just give more European players opportunities to play big events. So yeah, that's a good thing. It'll just be a little weird to see. It's new. It's weird. The only those three true West Coast events are OTB Open, Portland Open, and Beaver State Fling, which are conveniently all back to back to back. So maybe people will get out there. It's tough. Those are some of I think people's favorite courses too on the entire tour. So we'll have to see what they end up doing with West Coast, but it is so expensive. Everything is more expensive. Travel is more expensive. Setup is more expensive. Renting out courses is more expensive. So unfortunately, West Coasters, I'm sorry, but disc golf lives on the East Coast right now. It's absolutely wild. Silver Series, I agree. I think they had a sort of place in experimenting with courses. It was kind of nice to be able to like, okay, we'll get a small look at this course, see how it does, see how people like it, see if it can be a elite series next year. But it's complicated. I think all of the changes are good for the sport, including going to Europe. I think it'll be good for the sport in the long run if we can kind of figure it out, keep adjusting, keep getting better at it. We'll see what it looks like this year. Now we're going to talk about what we really want to talk about, and that is all of the off-season moves, which are pretty much over. Everyone has announced where they are going. We have some major contract signings. I'm going to break it down for you guys, and we're going to talk about it. For those of you who are living under a rock, very recently we got the 3 big announcements. Really, I mean, there were 2 giant announcements of 2 of the top 4 players in the world, top 3 players in the world. Gannon Buhr signed a 3-year deal with Discmania. Eagle McMahon signs a 5-year contract with MVP, which is wild. I really, really, really wish, for the sake of the sport and also fans of the sport, that they would say how much these contracts are. Yeah. I understand people don't necessarily want people to know how much they make. It makes sense. But in the sports world, I think it like a 5-year contract from MVP to Eagle McMahon, those are big numbers, and I would really prefer to see those. That's just a rant, a tangent. Would really love to see those numbers, because every time you see those, there's more kids, there's more especially kids who are seeing that, knowing they can grow up and make a good living on disc golf. So yeah, I wish we were announcing every single, just like normal sports contracts. But, I digress. Alden Harris, 2-year deal to Discmania. Those are some of the big 3. It's pretty awesome. We're going to talk about it. Chris Clemens got a 1-year deal to Discraft. That's pretty new. Silva Saarinen, 1-year deal with MVP. Tristan Tanner to DGA. That's pretty crazy. That's a cool little change up there. Chandler Fry to ThoughtSpace. ThoughtSpace is getting in the game. And then there's a few other notable ones, nothing too crazy. Emerson Keith signs a 1-year deal with Innova. He's been bouncing all over the place now. But yeah, that's, like I said, those are pretty much the big ones. If you ever want to, you can go to Disc Golf Ultiworld. They have a whole list of all of these contracts. That's where we're getting our information from. But we're going to talk about it. What do you guys think is the company that took the biggest W, and which company has taken the biggest L this offseason? We're talking winners and losers. Which disc golf manufacturer, company, sponsor took the W this offseason? Josiah, what do you think?
It's really hard for me to not say MVP, honestly, because it doesn't really look like they lost really many people, but they gained a notable name. And not only that, they gained it on a longer contract than what's known or more popular these days.
That's true.
I mean, you're seeing all the 1-year extensions and the 2-year deals. Actually,
there's a ton.
It's all 1-year extensions. Pretty much everything. It's all 1 year, and that's just where money is. So for the fact that Eagle can lock in a 5-year deal, has to be good for MVP, because it kind of lowers the risk, I think, for everybody. So they have Simon on a 10-year deal, Eagle on a 5-year deal, and almost nobody. There's only like 3 or 4 other people that have 5 years or longer, just in general. And so I think that's just really huge for MVP. They didn't seem to lose anybody. Discmania obviously gained some great people. They lost some great people. So I still think MVP seems to be coming out the winner on this. As far as losers, you see everybody seems to be leaving both Prodigy and Lone Star. Don't know what's up with that.
That's true. We can talk the mass exodus from Lone Star recently.
Yeah.
That has been crazy. So employees, players, wild.
It's super odd. So not sure exactly what's going on. I mean, Lone Star signed a few people. I think the only Prodigy extension I saw was Aiden Scott, and other than that, it doesn't seem to be like anybody's joining or like it doesn't seem like either of those companies did any major announcements to try and keep or get anybody. It just seems like everybody left. Now, granted,
even outside of player movement, there just was not a lot like excitement in the offseason. I feel like I mean, we know can gain you a lot of ground, a lot of money, a lot of fans, and silence is what it seemed like from a few of these companies, especially Lone Star and Prodigy.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And so I don't know what's going on, but they both of them definitely seem to have lost a lot of people and not really gained many people.
Yeah, I agree. Nick, what do you think? Winners and losers?
Yeah, I think I want to say that Discmania actually has the W in the longer term. And I say that because, yes, they might not be getting longer contracts as opposed to like Eagles 5-year, but I mean, Alden is doing 2-year, Gannon is doing 3-year. And so looking at that, I'm like, well, you have, these younger guys, obviously Gannon's super young and winning tournaments. And so I'm like, maybe in the longer run, like they're bringing these young guys in who aren't just signing 1-year deals. Who's going to follow them? Like, who's up and coming next? Who's coming into the scene next year? Who's the next Gannonberg? Who's going to want to go there or follow them? Or, like, so I'm not saying, like, Eagle and Simon are, like, on their way out the door. That's not the case at all. But I am saying that, like, it's interesting to see the young guys kind of go over to Discmania. Whereas, like, Prodigy typically, I felt like, was, like, they're always getting the up-and-coming guys. So I don't know. I feel like maybe are we seeing this with Discmania or not? Yeah, I would just have to also. I just said Prodigy, but I don't know. I think they're kind of taking an L, not seeing anybody go in their direction. Everyone's just leaving. So, and then I mean MVP is still killing it with getting Eagle and Simon, and nobody's leaving there either. So
yeah, I believe MVP will definitely take the biggest W in the immediate return category, because having Eagle and Simon back together is absolutely wild. That's such a good move on their part, and I'm sure they made a just boatload of money off of the Simon releases of last year, and they're going to continue to do that. And Eagle is young, guys. I think we sometimes forget how young. He's 25. So even with like injury, he's got 10 years of prime Eagle McMahon left, realistically, of like really good Eagle McMahon. Maybe more than that if he takes care of himself. Eagle McMahon is young, and he's going to be around for a while. And Simon is there for 10 years. And so it's like they have the dynamic duo who surpasses just being a professional disc golfer who's good at disc golf. Both of them have iconic personalities that everyone knows and loves. So short-term and long-term, that's probably a big W for them. It's hard not to. But I agree in that the potential that Discmania has right now is astronomical. This is the best thing that they could have done, in my opinion, was to go. They're basically doing what they did before, where they pick up Simon at a young age. He's a likable guy. He's really good. He makes funny videos. Eagle McMahon, same thing, young age, super good, makes funny videos. And they have lovable personalities. They surpass just like, your classic, you're good at disc golf, I'm going to watch you because you're good. That, which helps, because that means even when they're not good, they're still going to make money on disc sales. So Alden Harris, Gavin Babcock, and Gannon Burr, all three are with Discmania now. It's the vlog squad. They're in videos together all the time. People really do love these guys. I think anyways, we love these guys. They're hilarious. They're super fun to watch. They're all super, super young. They're younger than Eagle McMahon even, which is crazy. And who do you think is going to follow, whose contract extension is up in 1 year's time? They're going to reunite the boys. They're going to bring back Isaac Robinson to the vlog squad, get him in on Discmania. And then they're going to have this... their future is going to be limitless. The future potential of having Alden Harris, Isaac Robinson, Gavin Babcock, literally the Prodigy guys, except for, with no offense to Prodigy, I love the people that we have worked with over there, but Discmania's marketing is next level. It's better than any other companies, with the exception of maybe Discraft. It's a different style over Discraft. It's much more professional, I feel like, and Discmania's is much more personal and relatable. But Discmania's marketing and what they do to help elevate players is unreal. So I think Discmania is taking a big W here in acquiring the vlog squad. They're going to have so much content out there, and I think that these companies really, like, you cannot undersell the value of their potential on YouTube. Because
Yeah.
Like, listen, guys, Simon Lizotte in 2020 or 2019 had maybe 50K subs. He had maybe 50,000 subscribers. He was very well known for his trick shots. He wasn't nobody. He was in Brody Smith videos while Brody Smith was still, like, you know, up there in YouTube viewership as far as, like, the general public goes. But now he's Simon with only almost 200,000 subscribers, and he's the $1 million man. He's selling insane discs. So I think the potential should not be overlooked in the YouTube and media space. I mean, that's why Kona Panis is making an unreal amount of money from her one contract. So I think potentially really, really big W from Discmania. Like, you're losing Eagle and Simon, who are synonymous with Discmania. It's like, it would feel devastating, but I think this move is genius. I think it's awesome. Big W for them. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Big W for them. Also, I kind of like Thought Space moves here, picking up a few sneaky picks. You just don't usually see them out there. But they signed Lucky Lawrenson to 4 years. That's crazy. I'm just going to throw that out there. Go ahead and say what you're going to say, Josiah.
I was just going to say, just to reiterate what you said about Discmania's marketing, I do think it's really good. And I think something for me that was like, yeah, no, their marketing is really good. So I watched the premiere video on YouTube of Alden.
Yes.
And one, it was really good. And it was basically just Gavin giving Alden a tour of all of the discs. And anybody who's smart enough to knows that Alden isn't probably going to throw half those discs that were shown. And I was like, holy cow, this is genius. They're just literally walking through Discmania's lineup of discs and just basically telling people, this is what this disc does. This is like, and they mentioned several times that it's really good for beginners. And I was like, you don't mention that unless it's a really good marketing tool to be like, hey, let's walk through all of their discs.
It's true.
And the other thing that was funny is before the premiere started, because I was there a few minutes early, I was reading all the chat, and I love YouTube chat so much. It is the funniest thing ever. And literally there was this one, it's true. There's this one dude who's just trying to, be toxic on how bad Discmania is marketing it. And I'm like, you're here.
I know, yeah, you're in.
Why are you saying their marketing is bad?
Got him.
But you're here. So I thought that was like the icing on the cake for me of like, no, they're doing a great job with their marketing. It was so funny.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I think big W for Discmania and MVP. They're both popping off. I saw a chart that I think Discmania posted, or Power Grip posted it, and it was like Power Grip's most famous or best-selling disc manufacturers in Europe. And Innova dropped way down, but they're still like number 2. Innova used to be like not even on the chart compared to everyone else, but the number 1 selling one was Discmania now, which is crazy, even with Simon and Eagle leaving. I mean, Simon left last year. They still had Eagle, but still, Eagle didn't play as much. So they're doing good things over there at Discmania. I'm very excited for them. Super cool guys over there. We're going to end with a little prediction game, a very miniature prediction game. There are 2 contracts up at the end of this year that I want to talk about, and we're going to see if we can guess it correctly. And if we do guess it correctly, you'll get a disc. I'm looking at my table full of discs, and I'm going to pick this Supreme Fugitive right here.
Man, I want that Raptor, bro.
You can't have the Raptor. I'm sorry, you missed the other pick'em. There are 2 names. Isaac Robinson is the first name. He's probably leaving Prodigy. All of his friends are gone. But also, Prodigy, as much as I love Prodigy, like I mentioned, there's some cap there. And to bust through this ceiling that Prodigy has, like with your Discraft, your Innova, your Discmania even, I think Isaac has got to go so that he can make bank. Unless there's a chance that Prodigy, like, he is a Georgia boy. Ezra is still there, Ezra Robinson. So they could say, like, we're going to double down. We're going to offer you the bag. We're going to try and keep you. Where do you guys think Isaac is going at the end of this year? I'll let Nick start this one.
Dude, there's no question he's going to Discmania. He's going to hang out with the friends and do the vlogs, and they'll all be together. I mean, we've already said that. I mean, I think I think he's going to Discmania. I mean, you do raise a good point though with Ezra being there and being local grown, because Prodigy's also based out of Georgia.
I actually don't know about Ezra's contract. Is Ezra's contract almost up?
I'm actually trying to find any information
I don't see
on
his
that.
isn't on the list. I don't know. There's a chance his is up too. If both of them are up,
I feel like Ezra would want Isaac to go and do that though. Kind of go to the next level, if you like you said, or get the bag or whatever. I feel like Ezra would be in favor of Isaac doing that. So Prodigy would really have to throw him the bag to get him to stay, I feel like.
It's true. Josiah, what do you think?
I don't know. Like, to be honest, I would love to see him join whatchamacallit, Discmania. I would love to see him join Discmania. But I wouldn't be surprised if, at the end of the year, somebody else is offering him a bag and Discmania is not, because they spent all of their Simon money on Alden and Gannon,
Gannon,
So I don't know, especially because we're seeing how expensive it is to keep good players, and the fact that money kind of seems to be going out, that I just don't know where he could possibly go. So I see a lot of options. I honestly think it would be super cool for him to just not go with the Vlog Squad, not because I don't want him to, but he's already going to be known there anyway, that I think that is advantageous to any company, regardless. I don't think it's just advantageous to Discmania to have them all together. So,
do you imagine if he goes to MVP?
That would be insane.
Dude,
I think that it's going to depend on this year.
I'm like, Isaac's going to get a bag at Innova Discs.
Oh my gosh.
Please don't do it. No, just kidding.
All I'm saying is,
if
Isaac goes to Innova, they offered him money, because that while we don't know the details of the contracts, everybody in the Vlog Squad knows how much all of them are getting paid.
Yeah.
And so he knows what Alden and Gannon just got paid. And so if he isn't getting at least equal to what Gannon is getting, especially if he has a semi-similar season,
he has a similar year,
then, he's probably not going to want,
he'll
probably go to whoever can do it.
Since Discraft likes world champions besides...
Oh, I found it. Hang on.
Conrad. Oh, go for it.
Ezra's contract ends this year too.
Ooh, interesting.
They're both gone then. They're both gone.
I had to go 2 years back in his Instagram to find it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So,
oh wow.
So yeah.
Here, this is what I was gonna say.
Go.
Discraft they got 1 year with Chris Clemens. They got 1 year with Andrew Fish. They're gonna get rid of some of those guys and free up space for Isaac. That's what's going on.
Their cap space.
That could very well be. So is your prediction Discraft, Nick? Or no, you said Discmania.
No.
You gotta choose.
Discmania,
it's for the Pick'ems game.
I feel like I don't know. Yeah, Discmania, sure.
Okay. And Josiah, what do you think?
I'm gonna go on a bone and say Innova Discs.
Innova Discs.
Yeah.
That would be the most out of pocket crazy prediction to come right ever. But I'll respect the heck of it.
I will be clipping this
in
next
4K
year
on YouTube. Yeah. Wow, yeah. I'm between he goes to Discmania and he stays at Prodigy. I think it depends on the year that he has. If he does well, if he even gets one Elite Series win this year, I think he's gone. I think somebody else is going to offer him more money than Prodigy. But if he wins even, like I said, one Elite Series and has a consistent year, I think his value is through the roof, and I think that Prodigy needs to keep him. If they want to build up rapport with the competitive disc golf community and the fans of competitive disc golf, and they want to see some of this money flowing, I think they need legacy factor, kind of like Discmania had with Simon.
Mm-hmm.
I think they need to build up this collection of Isaac Robinson discs and do them well, and I think they should absolutely offer him more money than whoever else comes in and tries to take him. I think Prodigy should do that. I don't know if they will. I don't know if they'll see the value and having the hometown boy stay the hometown boy and pay him for it. They focus on Kevin Jones for so long, who love Kevin Jones, but Kevin Jones has, not been performing. I personally at least have seen on social media and YouTube and even in the competitive scene, if you're paying attention to Prodigy, you are watching Alden Harris, You were watching Gannon Burr. You were watching even Ezra and Isaac, like even Ezra Robinson and Isaac Robinson, way more. You were paying way more attention to them than any other Prodigy player. And I don't know why that is. Kevin Jones is still very well known and has very good rapport throughout a lot of disc golf fandom. But I feel like they need to invest in him. That being said, I think he goes Discmania. I think Discmania still has cap space because I'm sure they're paying Gannon Burr very, very well. I'm sure they're paying Alden pretty darn well and Gavin pretty darn well, but I think not nearly as much as they were paying Simon and Eagle. So I think they still have cap space, if I'm being honest. They have Kyle Klein to an extension, but their Sky team is back down to 2 people. They have Kyle Klein and Gannon Burr. Their signature team is Alden, Casey White, Colton Montgomery, Ella Hansen, and Gavin Babcock. And that's, like, as far as touring pros go, that's pretty much it. They have Silas Schultz as well, and Cynthia Ricciardi. But those are their big name touring pros. I think they have a lot of cap space, and I think they're going to get Isaac. Yeah. I'm going to say Discmania as well. All right, one other name, and this one might be a bust. This might be a hot take. But just a contract that I saw that is up after a 2-year deal is Brody Smith. One Brody Smith. And I just want to throw this idea out there that Brody Smith has been Discraft, like he bleeds Discraft. He was Discraft even before disc golf. But he's got to be seeing the hype and the money that other people are making when they leave their company like that. He has to be seeing this like multi-million-dollar deal that Simon Lizotte got, and probably a multi-million-dollar deal that Eagle got. And I'm wondering, after this year, does Brody Smith re-sign with Discraft, continue that going? I mean, he's making bank, and he might not even be in it for the money, but I see hype potential there of him leaving Discraft, causing a big stir, and making a ton of money dropping discs somewhere else. What do you guys think? What do you think, Josiah?
Yeah, I don't think Brody goes anywhere. I
think
he
Brody
stays.
Goes anywhere?
No, I think you're right. He lives and breathes Discraft. I think he's created a brand there. I don't think he goes anywhere. And honestly, I know that Brody is probably the most cocky person on tour. But
I don't know, dude. There's pretty cocky people.
There's some pretty cocky out there, but he's like most vocally like. But at the same time, like Brody knows he's not as good as some people. You know, he's cocky and he'll trash talk, but he knows that he probably can't back it up.
I mean, he was top 32.
That's true. Well, he can back it up with most people, but I mean, if he's trash talking Calvin, you know, he knows that Calvin is better than him.
Yeah,
like that type Calvin. Of deal. Yeah, but Calvin, like they did a practice round together, and there's just a lot of banter going on, and he's one of those people. All that to say, I don't think Brody's in it for the $1 million contract. I think he's in it for playing the sport, and I think he genuinely wants to just be one of the best people playing. And so I think he would rather stick with what he knows and what he's comfortable with. And we all know he's selling discs, so we know that Discraft is going to pay him to sell discs. And so I think he's just going to stay with Discraft just because I think it might be harder for Brody to try and resell discs with a different company than it would be with Discraft.
That's true. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I totally see that. He's a Texas boy, right?
He's a Florida boy originally.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I don't know. I had Texas.
It's that Lone Star?
Yes, bro. That's what I was going to say, bro. I think, like, I don't know what's going on with Lone Star or whatever, but, like, they just, like, cleared house. Maybe Brody's going to come in there. I don't if he's living in Texas or not. I thought he was a Texas boy.
He is. He's living in Texas now.
Okay, bro.
But his wife is a cheerleader for the Raiders, and he grew up in Florida. It's a whole thing, I guess.
He has 3 houses, one in Las Vegas, one in Dallas, and one in Virginia.
Wild.
I don't know how I know that piece of information, but I do.
I think we talked to him.
I'm just throwing the hypothetical out there. Lone Star's got a lot going on this year. What if Brody Smith decides to just like come up under there and just revive the whole company?
Yeah.
I don't know. That would be pretty crazy.
I think that would be
like his own
risky,
company. I feel like if he was to do something like that. But yeah, I don't know. Josiah just made a really great case for him staying at Discraft.
True.
Yeah.
What's your choice? What's your pick? You got to pick.
Dude, I'm gonna say that he's just gonna like stay in Texas and with his one Dallas house and just like revive Lone Star.
Nice. I like it.
Going to Lone
I
Star.
like it. Going
What's
to Lone
more
Star.
wild, Brody to Lone Star or Isaac to
Or
Intermod?
Isaac definitely Brody to Lone Star. That'd be amazing, though. The
No,
memes.
he's not, dude. But
But imagine.
Brody signs
Here's
a
my
10-day
here's my
deal
conspiracy
with.
my conspiracy theory. Brody Smith loves Discraft, loves being a Discraft, makes a ton of money. But I mean, he's got some beefs there. We know like him and Paul are probably a little cooled off by now, but I think he knows he could maybe fit in better somewhere or be the main guy somewhere. I don't know if he wants that. I don't know if he cares for that. I know he sells a ton of it. So there's two thought processes. Discraft, super safe, making a ton of money, incredible branding. Yeah, there's no real reason to leave, especially if they know the value that they have. They might not let him go. They'll be like, whatever they're offering you, we'll offer you more. This is my possibility, my conspiracy theory. MVP makes bank this year. They're dropping a whole new line of discs for Simon Lizotte. They're going to start dropping a whole new line for Eagle McMahon, and they make millions off of these discs. And they go to Brody Smith, and they say, hey, you are the next guy. Like, we want you to be our guy. We got Simon, we got Eagle, we have the biggest content creators. You will join and be the biggest content creator out of all three of them, and we're going to have the craziest. We're going to sell so many discs. You're going to make millions of dollars. We'll give you your own line of discs, which is something he does not really have at Discraft. I don't know if Discraft has the room for that. They have so many discs. I don't know. They say, Brody Smith, we will give you your whole, we can tell you the numbers on how many Simon Lizotte pixels we sold. We can tell, and we'll give you that. I don't know.
wild.
It could happen. Might not happen, but that's going to be my prediction. That's going to be my hot take. He goes, MVP continues this thing where they're going to sign one massive named player. They maybe drop a few players whose contracts are up, but I think they make millions. Maybe not millions. They make a ton of money off of Eagle McMahon and Simon Lizotte. Maybe millions, honestly. I don't know.
Yeah, they probably will.
All the ins and outs, but probably millions. And they say, Brody, we're going big. We want you to be our guy. Bang.
I love that.
There you have it. That's my thought. What do you think, Josiah?
I could see it happening, but Brody's not the main guy at Discraft. And
Yeah.
I mean, big conspiracy theory also. And I just don't think he'll go to another place just to be overshadowed by other people again, you know. And so I don't see it happening. It could, you know. I've been surprised already. Now, granted, we hear all these rumors where it's like, there's no way that's going to happen. And then a week later, we're like, actually, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So
I just think it generates so much hype when people leave.
Yes.
And if MVP were to go to him and pitch him some of those numbers and say, like, this is what we got from Simon. And Simon has a ton of following.
Yeah.
I don't know. He probably moves more plastic than anyone else, if we're being honest. He probably does. But there's a chance that Brody Smith, low key, is like
moving a lot.
Moving a ton because his popularity branches out of disc golf. So I don't know.
How long is his contract currently?
It's over after this year.
But it was a 2-year deal. So I think what would shock me just as much or also generate just as much is if Brody gets like a 5-year deal and stays with Discraft. I think that would be just as shocking if people have like a long deal and they do some like kind of, I mean, we all knew that it would that Kevin Jones was staying with Prodigy, but his 4-year deal that he announced a couple years ago, that generated hype at the time.
True.
And it did. And you're like, oh yeah, like Kevin Jones. And then we're like, that's funny because there are other people on the team that are better than him, but they didn't even know that at the time. You know, that Isaac and Ezra and Alden and Gannon were all going to be better than Kevin Jones. And, you know, they might have wanted to have reconsidered that deal looking back, but they just didn't notice that. And so I think that generates hype just as much. But yeah, right now it generally seems to be like super hype when people leave for other people. So I see it as a possibility, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. I just think if there's one fandom out there that's going to support that, it's going to be like the MVP fans. They're going crazy right now, and if you're MVP and you want to continue generating hype, you got to keep doing it. You got to keep chasing the hype. But I don't know. You guys let us know what you think. That is the show for this week. Thank you all so much for listening, for watching, and we will see you guys in the next one. Stay swanky.
Stay swanky.
Let's rank them.